Tehillah, you grew up in a Jewish family, but then you learned about the forgiveness and mercy of Jesus through your parents. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, I went through an addiction when I was younger, and I experienced God's grace and salvation and forgiveness through my parents' response to it, of them finding out that I went through this, and they sat me down and they gave me an understanding of what it looks like to forgive in such a loving way, with mercy, but also with conviction. And that showed me who Jesus is, of who God says he is as a loving father, and sharing that he desires for us not to be in sin. And so through that, God has transformed me in such a beautiful way.
That's amazing. And I mean, so many people struggle with addictions of all different kinds. I mean, would you share a little bit more with us about that journey? Because I know so many people will relate.
I grew up in church. I grew up in a believing family. And so a lot of the things that I experienced or would hear in school came up often. And so it brought up curiosity. And so I went on a journey, basically, of finding out what these things were, and it brought me to pornography. And it brought me to a place of fear and anxiety. But I think when I came out of that addiction, the Lord was like, no, don't, that's not for you. And just understanding the beauty of how God can redeem that now, even in my marriage, is really beautiful.
That is really beautiful. And I think that it's also very beautiful how just openly and comfortably you even shared about that, because I think a lot of what keeps people trapped in all sorts of struggles is just the shame and feeling like nobody will understand, I have to keep this a secret. And it's really the opposite of that. It's the truth that sets us free. So tell us how you broke free from this.
Yeah, I think it was mainly through my sister, having found things that I had drawn, or things that I was looking at that were just not good. And she brought it to my parents, and I think the Lord also just put that into play of just getting me out of that.
It's like he saved you from yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can completely relate to that. And I think that a lot of people don't have parents who are so forgiving and so loving, yeah. But God is that perfect Father that always wants to welcome us back. A lot of people struggle with these types of things, and someone might be watching this and they're thinking, I love God, I love Jesus, and I'm still struggling. What's wrong with me? And I love what you shared about the journey of it, and that's a big piece of the freedom, walking in the truth of who God made us to be, his beloved children. So you had this addiction and then this process of redemption. And where are you at today? Who is Tehillah today? What's your true identity?
I am a believer in Jesus, and that who I am as a Jewish person plays a huge part in that. And so where I am now is I find that the Lord has brought me to a place of wanting to share with people of who he is, and wanting to connect with them in the places and the things that they struggle with, and bringing them to a place of knowing his love and knowing his grace and his justice, his just grace. And through that, understanding that there's a need for redemption, that there's a need for his grace and his love and his salvation.
Yeah, and we see that in our world, and we see it in ourselves, and God is bringing it about each day. Even when we don't always know it's him, he's drawing us to himself. And if you're watching this, I believe you're not watching this by accident. It's because God is drawing you to him to experience that freedom, that redemption. And it might be a long journey, but keep going. You're on the right path. And I just pray God's blessing over you, and hope that you'll join us again. There's so many stories like Tehillah's, of Jewish people around the world who have found peace and hope and healing in Jesus as their Messiah. That is my prayer and blessing for you.